Hello and welcome back to another episode of Flick POV, where we discuss our articles from flickpov.com. Remember, you can follow us on our social media, Flick POV website. And today we're going to discuss my latest article called Why Homelander's Arc in The Boys Exposes the Myth of Cancel Culture. Make sure you stay to the end of the episode so you can hear my opinions and my discussion based on this article. The Boys Season 4 Recap. Season 4 of The Boys kicks off with Starlight asserting her independence from Vought and launching her movement against superhumans. Meanwhile, Homelander faces trial for murder after brutally lasering one of Starlight's supporters on live television in front of thousands of witnesses. Compared to previous seasons, Season 4 emphasizes supes revealing their dark side to the masses and getting justified. An even clearer depiction of American politics, particularly the divide between Republicans and Democrats, drawing parallels between Donald Trump and his far-right supporters. As viewers, it becomes clear Homelander is a murderer and a sociopath desperate for love and validation. He is obsessed with mother figures and breast milk. For many years, he hid behind closed doors, maintaining the facade of a perfectly moral hero with Vought's expert marketing. In this season, Homelander reveals his true colors and his innate Machiavellian actions. After realizing the extent of his power and the unwavering support from his followers, he becomes unapologetic and cynical in the eyes of mainstream media. This character arc mirrors the societal dynamics of our current world. For instance, think of the activists in the media who defend the oppressed and raise awareness on several issues. Even though they fight to improve those problems, they still face backlash from those who disagree. Homelander's story exemplifies the law of the jungle in its purest form. Regardless of social political structure and governmental organization, anything goes. Victoria Newman keeps hiding, and the boys keep condemning murder, unless it serves personal gain or vengeance. In a world driven by celebrity culture and the idolizing of public figures, The Boys fits like a glove. Season 4 portrays how those in power can escape justice by manipulating the masses into believing they are pursuing a greater cause. This season, the Seven finally exposed themselves for who they truly are, especially Homelander. They show their tyrannical side as they reinforce fear amongst the population. They remind everyone that they can be destroyed in any way through the media, professionally and physically. Meanwhile, Butcher, Huey, Starlight, Frenchie, MM, and Kimiko are working on a virus that could weaken, perhaps kill, Homelander, while also trying to avoid a soup pandemic. They continue their pursuit of Homelander and the Seven, often coming up short. In this season, the call comes from within. The boys confront their deepest desires and inevitably realize their drive to stop Vought is rooted in their wish for payback rather than their pursuit of a greater good. Each of them deals with their biggest demons, including their selfishness. These two storylines represent our current global political climate, where leaders are sinking their own ships and those who try to stop them are motivated by personal gain. Many activists preach about social welfare and communal growth, but in the end, they turn their backs on those they claim to defend, just as Butcher does. The Seven and Vought also symbolize celebrities' role in modern society. Many celebrities strategically collaborate with public relations and marketing managers to build an impeccable image to cater to their audience's desires. From athletes to artists, politicians, and social media stars, people's popularity grows as fast-paced as their superiority complex. Many of them believe they are unstoppable and scrutiny-proof, which, to some extent, is true. They may not be unstoppable, but several thrive unexpectedly after slander. We live in a world obsessed with celebrities as heroes, so they're put on a pedestal while they monetize their controversy. Fans forget they're being manipulated by those public figures who perfectly craft speeches to fit a structured algorithm. The series has consistently been explicit in this critique of celebrity culture. The Boys highlights how extreme fame and wealth can insulate individuals from reality. These people benefit from and perpetuate hyperconsumption while keeping themselves alienated from reality. They have a distorted perception, like many real-life celebrities. But how accurate is it? It's not far from the truth, as we've all seen famous people self-sabotage through their narcissism. the question remains: are celebrities sinking themselves or getting away with it? Celebrities who avoid downfall are those who have always been transparent about their personalities. They build a fandom that sees them for who they are and continue to support them. This is why cancel culture is a farce. It doesn't truly exist. You only get canceled if you pretend to be someone you're not and are eventually exposed. Celebrities who pretend to be kind and the ideal role model, but in the end show their true colors, are those who lose their influence. They lose it because their actions didn't align with what they preached, and they gained followers with those specific values. This explains why figures like Andrew Tate experience no decrease in viewership and even see their influence grow. Their target audience empathized with them from the beginning and always knew what they were signing up for. Therefore, Homelander can get away with lasering Starlight's supporter, but Starlight faced backlash after being exposed for bullying Firecracker back when they were beauty pageant contestants. It is also why she lost many supporters after getting exposed for having an abortion and beating Firecracker. Celebrity culture. Celebrity culture is present like never before, and it only seems to get worse. People say we should make the right people famous. But the problem is rooted in putting celebrities on a pedestal. Without generalizing too much and accusing every influencer of narcissism, a lot of them think they are infallible. The biggest downside is how their supporters buy into this belief and feed their hubristic egos with fanaticism. Perhaps these fans are searching for a hero to look up to for guidance, distracting themselves from their own issues. Todd is a perfect example of this. He idolizes Homelander exactly how many voters adore radical politicians. For instance, many people feel they are struggling, like anyone else would, with money, stability, and personal affairs, and they need someone to blame. Enter the perfect controversial figure pretending to care for them, to empathize and listen. This figure says exactly what is expected and in turn receives unquestionable loyalty. In a way, these supporters might be in the wrong, but deep down they feel unheard as they struggle. The root of the problem goes beyond simply wanting to put a savior-like figure on a pedestal. Rather, a sum of problems in our society that remain unsolved. Even though followers have morally questionable thoughts, they should be heard so they can receive the proper help they need and even change their initial beliefs. From a psychological standpoint, no matter how unacceptable their idiosyncrasy is, these people need guidance, and since most of them get immediately shut down, they turn to others with the same mindset, yet greater influence. They feel represented as if their voices were louder. They are in search of a superior figure which they can blindly trust, hoping their struggles will disappear or become easier to navigate. Incels. Consider the case of incels. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, an incel is a person, usually a man, who regards himself or herself as being involuntarily celibate and typically expresses extreme resentment and hostility towards those who are sexually active. The term incels emerged from a Reddit group in which tens of thousands of users, most of them young men, commiserate about their lack of sexual activity, many of them placing the blame on women. Josh O'Keefe in Webster 2024. Let's say an incel blames and attacks women, especially the feminist movement, for what he is experiencing. No matter how irrational his complaint is, he is desperate for validation. In truth, he should go to therapy and treat those feelings. Maybe he needs to work on behaviors that make him unsuccessful with dating. However, we also live in a society that prioritizes money, looks, and a certain type of men. In The Boys, Homelander's image provides all the things these people lack and need. He pretends to be the shoulder they can cry on. Homelander also represents people in positions of power, those who perpetuate polarization with the help of incredibly popular figures like the Seven. It becomes a never-ending cycle of panem et circenses. Even cancel culture, as pointless as it may seem, has contributed to societal divisions without substantial effect. In The Boys, Sage knows this perfectly well and uses it to make the Seven's manipulation more influential. Her powers seem fantastical because she can read incredibly fast and fully retain information. However, anyone without supernatural powers who studied an environment in detail would eventually discover what Sage did. Hence, this season's stronger reminder that, with perfect marketing and public relations, anyone can be manipulated, even you. So, for this episode's discussion, I think people fight one another more than they used to probably a couple of decades ago. But I don't think people fight more because now we are in this world where people don't have anything better to do but fight. I think that now with social media and the fact that we can encounter people with different political views or different views on several things from us more often through social media. And we face these people, sometimes we read a comment we disagree with, and we're very quick to jump, even without understanding the full context of what the other user intended. So I think, we are experiencing this difference in views, difference in opinions, because it's also easier to hide behind a screen and just say what you want and rant about what you want without facing any consequences, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that can happen is you'll just get slammed back and you can just turn your device off. Now, when it comes to is the world more polarized than it used to be, I think that business leaders, political leaders, and celebrities have found the secret to obtaining followers. And I think that is based on polarizing people, dividing people even more, so that you can judge and slam those who you disagree with and ultimately your followers disagree with. And I think that's very problematic because it's only creating more division between people. And when you have many problems that you want to solve, but you're so focused on who you hate and who you consider to be an enemy, then you forget about the problems that need solving. Ultimately, shifting your attention to the person you hate, making it your only problem. And I think I explained everything pretty much, just saying that cancel culture is a farce. And it's a farce because nowadays, you have, especially with the English language, you can reach any audience in the world because many people speak English without being native speakers. So you can hate on whatever you want, and eventually people will find you and will like that you dare saying what they don't care, what they don't dare to say. Let's say, even though we are living in a very progressive time where we talk about feminism and we talk about including women and we talk about equal rights, there's going to be men that disagree with that, and also women. There's going to be people that think that feminism is toxic. There's going to be people that think that feminism is problematic, whatever. But because it's the movement of today, some people will hardly protest it. Now, I'm not saying that I'm protesting feminism before people jump into conclusions, because I like feminism and I consider myself to be a feminist. But what I'm trying to say is, even if you don't like feminism, almost no one dares say it out loud. But when someone does, people that disagree with feminism almost see it as revolutionary. And those people, it doesn't really matter how problematic they are, as long as they keep themselves true to their followers are going to support them. And hence my example of Andrew Tate. But I also think that's very common, for example, with comedians. I mean, not long ago I was talking about what is comedy and what do we consider to be comedy in another episode. And I think I want to go back to that today because there are so many comedians out there that are making homophobic jokes, racist jokes, misogynistic jokes, and they cover it up by saying, yeah, but it's dark humor. And it doesn't really matter how problematic or how offensive the things that they say are still thriving. Whether we like it or not, they are thriving. They are increasing in viewership. And the question is, why? How come they're not losing any followers? Whereas we've seen other comedians or content creators or celebrities or politicians get cancelled for the same thing. Well, the reason is because these comedians started their careers saying that. And as they say it louder, more and more people hear it and listen to it. So that's why they never get cancelled, but instead increase their viewership. And that's the problem with polarization, because no one is actually stopping and reasoning, hey, should I think this? And why should I or why shouldn't I? People are just focused on, I'm either gonna hate this comedian or I'm gonna hate this person, or I'm gonna love him or love her and slam anyone who decides to disagree with them or judge them back. So, for example, think of the Kardashians. You know, so many people disagree with the beauty standards that they are setting over and over and over again. Even themselves have complained about the beauty standards that they cannot keep and how they can't keep up with the rhythm that they have created. But the question is, if so many people considered the beauty standards that this family sets unrealistic and toxic and unhealthy, how come they are getting more and more viewers, more and more deals for TV shows or working with other networks? How come they are selling so many products and people still love them and they have fans all over the world to the point that they cannot even walk in the street without getting paparazzis everywhere? Because their target audience was never woke people, or their target audience was never people who care about accepting who you are and accepting your body the way that it is. Their target audience has always been women who want to have a specific type of body, or women who want to be perceived as beautiful, but not only beautiful, but as the most beautiful woman in the room. Their target audience is also young girls who might not feel as comfortable with themselves or might want to try and look a different way for a little while until they grow out of it. And their target audience is also people who want their lifestyle, not just their bodies. And so they engage people with that. And the reality is, they're never going to lose that influence. They're never going to lose that outreach and that engagement that they've already gained. So I think at the end of the day, as I said it in this article, it's the law of the jungle. Everyone is doing whatever they want, and we're trying to follow a moral. We're trying to follow a society. We're thinking, oh, should we do this? Should we do that? What is the status quo that we should be following? But there isn't any, because everyone is doing whatever they want. So if you are a viewer and you don't know what to do, you don't know what to think, you don't know what to follow, I mean, the only thing left is to analyze independently every person you admire, every content you consume, and think to yourself, is this what is best for me? And now that we have acknowledge that polarization is a problem, then how are we going to stop polarization? How are we going to make this a smaller problem? I think whether we like it or not, before we fight against other people and before we tell people, no, you are wrong because this, and that, we have to stop and question ourselves. What is that other person feeling? What would make this person believe this? And that's what I was saying with incels. And I know that incel can be a bit of an offensive word, but I just couldn't find any other way of putting things or describing them. But, let's say there's a group of men who are judging women for being feminists, for being sensual and sexy and showing their skin and wanting a specific type of men. They're going to be judged, right? And they're going to be judged by incels who think, women don't want any more morals, or whatever incels think. Before we jump and say, hey, you are rude, you are a misogynist, you are this, and that, maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, why is this person blatantly hating women so much? Maybe I need to listen to this person and then have an open dialogue, have a conversation, which I think it's not really done anymore these days. And I think that's also what The Boys is trying to portray. You cannot solve any problem if you do not open the dialogue. And I think the show pretty much divides people between Starlighters versus people who support Homelander. Should we call them Homelanders? Starlighters are not listening to Homelanders, and Homelanders are not listening to Starlighters. So, how are they even going to improve anything if no one is listening to each other? And I know I sound redundant, and I know I sound like I'm just spiraling here. But going back to my example with incels, maybe if I listen, I could just say, you know what, I get where you're coming from, but have you ever stopped and wondered what I'm thinking is also hurtful? And I think that's a way of tackling polarization. If you ask people to share their opinion and explain their opinion before judging them and demanding answers, maybe they will feel comfortable enough to actually share their perspective. And when people finally open up and share their perspective, we can reach a certain level of meutics. And with meutics, we can think of, let's say, you're giving me your arguments, you're giving me your ideas, and now I'm going to give you mine, and we can together reach a final conclusion for the greater good or for the better of this problematic. But I think that people nowadays don't even argue for the purpose of meutics. People only argue for the purpose of wanting to win, wanting to be right. And so then we go back to this whole idea of superiority complex. So we have people feeling like they are superior because they have a certain level of followers, and by followers, I not just mean social media followers, but also political followers, like a politician would have people voting for them. So, you have a certain level of followers, and now you feel like you're better because you have a certain amount of support. But on the other side, I also think there's people that share this superiority complex by feeling that they know better. They are smarter because they know more, and therefore they are superior. And so if everyone is going to be, joined to their ego, having this superiority complex, then how is anything ever going to get solved? Please let me know what you think. Leave us a comment at flickpov.com or flickpov website, and see you next time.